Hannah.
I'm Marielle, and we're going to show you how to do solving inequalities. Yeah. Okay, so this is our inequality. Yeah, if you can't see, it's x plus 1 over x times x minus 5. And it's really nice because it's already in factored form. So, yeah. So first what you're going to do is you're going to find the zeros of your equation. And the zeros of a fraction is always going to be the numerator. Always, 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 because when you have a zero numerator, the fraction is 0. So the zeros of this is x, you set the numerator equal to 0. So that would be x plus 1 equals 0. Okay? And then, obviously that's x is negative 1. So negative 1 would be your 0. Okay? So we're going to put a point at negative 1 on our graph. Okay. And then you're going to find the vertical asymptotes. So the vertical asymptotes of a fraction is always going to be the zeros of the denominator, right? So you just found the zeros of the numerator. Now you can do the denominator. So you take this, and you see that the zero of this is 0 because if x is 0, the whole thing will be 0. Another one is 5 because you want to make this 0. So it would be 0 and 5, right? So the vertical asymptotes are 0 and 5, right? So now we found three quantities. We have negative 1, 0, and 5. And those are going to be the numbers that you're going to split your graph into like intervals, right? Depending on these numbers. So first she's going to plot.
So we have 1 here at negative 1, 1 at 0, and then 1 here at 5. And what we're going to do is, so we're going to find a number in each of one of our intervals, and we're going to test to see if it makes our equation true over here. So we're going to start with negative infinity, comma, negative 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to test f of negative 2. And when we do that, we get f of negative 2 equals negative 1/14.
You plug negative 2 into this equation. So we already did it, but once you do it, you'll find that it equals that, right?
And so we can see that negative 1/14 is in fact less than 0, so we know that this part of the interval makes this equation true. So we'll write a little check so we know that. Okay, so now we're going to do the next interval, which is negative 1, comma 0. And we're going to try f of negative 1/2. And we're going to plug negative 1/2 into the equation, and we will get 0.5 over 2.75, which is a positive number. And we know that this doesn't work. So this part of this interval will not make our equation true. So our next interval will be 0, comma 5. And we're going to try f of 1. And when we do that, we find that f of 1 equals negative 1/2, which makes our equation true. So this part is good. And our next interval will be 5, comma infinity. And we are going to try f of 6. And when we do that, we find f of 6 equals 7/6, which does not make our equation true. So now that we have tested all of our intervals, we're going to write a solution set
based on the graph. So here, I'll erase this so that we have a place to write it.
Okay, so we know that in between negative infinity and negative 1, any x value we can say that x is less than or equal to negative 1. So this is one part of the equation. But we also know that in between an interval 0, comma 5, it also works. So we have x is less than or equal to negative 1, or 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5.
Which would be this section, right? So you want to represent the sections that work with inequalities.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to
graph the solution set. Only if the instructions say to, because
so we have 0 here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Okay, so we're looking here, we see x has to be less than or equal to negative 1. So because it's less than or equal to, we'll have a closed circle. And we'll draw our arrow
that way.
This way. And then we also know that 0 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. So we have 2 points here. We know that any number in between them
Works.
including them. So this is how
you solve an inequality.
And got its solution set. Thanks.